All right, it is day one of the build on the Focus ST, and I'm going to get started with what I think is going to be one of the bigger projects, which is going to be the suspension all the way around, so shocks and struts. I'm going to go over the parts in detail with you guys, but I just got a phone call from my Ford parts department to let me know that one more of the parts that I had on order has arrived. Now, I've got the brakes from the Focus RS here as well, and they charged me a core charge to get rid of the original calipers that came on my ST. Normally, I would sell the calipers out on Marketplace or something like that, but I don't think a lot of people are going to be out there looking for Focus ST brake calipers, so I'm going to take advantage of the core charge. So in order to do that, I might as well get the brakes ripped off now and head out to Ford to pick up the other parts, and then come back, and then we'll pick up the rest of the episode while we start to do the rest of the suspension. One other thing I just found as I was going over everything, I started looking at the wheels and tires that came on my car, and I found a couple things. Some lovely nails. It's like I went through a construction site or something. So I started taking a look at them. I sprayed them down. This sucker right here has a very small leak. So that probably means I was hoping to get at least the rest of the summer out of these tires. I mean, they're pretty close to done, right? Like they're right at the wear marks on a few of them. I think this one's the worst. But I was really hoping to at least kind of burn them up the rest of the summer, but I might be in the market for some new tires. So we'll see about that. But before we get any further into that side of it, I need to get these two calipers ripped off, get the brakes off, and we'll start getting ready to get the shocks and everything else out of this. So let's get started. Okay, so I just got back from Ford. I got the parts that I had on order, and I tried to get them to fix the tire, but they were way too busy, so I'm gonna have to do that during the week. But I'll show you guys what I went and picked up. So the Focus RS airbox, and I've got the new K&N filter that's gonna go inside. Oddly enough, this guy actually comes with the stock filter included. So the reason why I decided to go with this one, there's so many intake options available for this car. Honestly, you could go crazy trying to decide on it all. But I'm ultimately going to get that scoop, that air, the kind of snorkel that goes off the front bumper. And one of the big things about that is you got all that air coming in, and then a lot of guys do like an open air element air filter because you want more intake noise. But the problem is all that air is hitting it and then just kind of blowing around in your engine bay. You're not actually taking advantage of having that snorkel up at the front. So instead, what I'm going to do is run the RS one. Going to get a little bit more intake noise out of this open style that I have on the front. But the hood's going to close up against the seal here. So that's going to kind of create a nice, decent seal. Still going to get the air to kind of force through, go into the new K&N air filter into there, and then hopefully that should yield a little bit more power, give me the little bit more intake noise that I want out of the car, natural intake noise, not that Symposer stuff. So that'll go on next, but let's get working on this suspension. All right, it is kind of, that's day two, but I'm still gonna call it day one because I didn't really get very much time in the garage yesterday to keep going on this. There are tons of videos online. CJ Pony Parts does some really good ones on, you know, putting lowering springs in these cars, shocks, stuff like that. So I'm not going to go too crazy into detail. But one thing I will say, when I bought this car, I saw it had a lot of surface rust. And I thought to myself, that's not going to be fun to take apart. And I was right. This thing just was hammered. The sway bar end links, I had to actually end up cutting it because they were completely seized. I tried turning it. It's the worst design ever. It's just, yeah. So I got new ones, but I had to run out yesterday and grab those. That's why I didn't quite finish everything. I did get new upper strut mounts when I did the whole setup because I knew that ultimately I was going to want to replace those anyways. Good thing I did because they just completely fell apart. And here's the other side. I just got this one out, and this isn't in the videos, but I thought maybe if somebody's watching this video and is thinking about doing this themselves, I would save them a huge headache. The driver's side was fine. It was not hard to get out. The passenger side, because it's got the short shaft and then the extension shaft that goes to the transmission through on that side, this axle does not want to move. So when you're pushing down on the control arm to try and get the shock to release from the hub, it won't do it. It just, the control arm is resisting you and pushing back, and I couldn't get that last ½ inch to get it to pop out. So what I did, which helped, is if you see here at the front of the control arm, I took the front bolt out, which allowed the arm to drop just enough and allowed it to kind of move like this, as you can see, to free it. This was a little trick as well. I kind of reversed the bolt and put this rod in just to kind of spread it, to help spread the knuckle so I could actually get the shock out. But my God, that was a pain. So fun tip, if you're planning on doing this, expect some parts to break, especially if they're all rusted on. Just the amount of rust on this car blows my mind for only being a 2016. The control arms are all rusty. The axles are rusty. I mean, my 2013 Mustang does not have this much rust. Maybe it's because this car's probably never lived in a garage. It's probably been outside its whole life, but yeah, this is not fun, guys. So I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna start to kind of build the new shocks. The only thing I was saving from the old ones is just the dust boots, because they seem to match up better to the factory upper strut mounts and the strut bearing. Compared to the ones that come with the springs. They're just like a universal one. They don't really match up. So I'm gonna get building those and we'll get them into the car next. And just like that, the fronts are in. Wow, that was a pain in the butt to do. I hope they're in all the way too. We'll find out, but I noticed, I measured it. I measured the distance on the bottom of the strut here going into the spindle on the stock one compared to these. These just sit just a little bit higher, and I've double checked everything and they look solid. I mean, I don't know if you guys can tell, but when you look at the bottom there, I mean, it's in. So I'm hoping that's it. I put a jack underneath the bottom and pushed up as much as I could, and they're not going any further. So that should be it. So now that the fronts are done, we are moving on to the rear. So I'll see you in just a minute. Done. Finally done the suspension on the car. I've got all 4 corners done. Man, that was difficult. The front was the biggest problem. The rear is really easy on these cars. Just a little bit more rust, but it went really smoothly. So as you can see in some of the time-lapse clips. So that's it. That's done for day 1, day 1.5, whatever you want to call it for the build. Next up, we're going to be working on the brakes, which I have right behind me. And so in the next video, I will go over all the details and how I basically got a complete Focus RS brake kit, and it's going on the ST. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.